I call the next member, I'm going to repeat the comment I made earlier, and that is members must at some stage make a passing reference at least to the estimate or the report or the current operations of an agency. One of the three will do, but it would be good if that happened. Richard Prosser.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Mr Chair, I'm always pleased to follow on from my erstwhile colleague, Mr O'Connor. I'm going to echo some of Mr O'Connor's thoughts, Mr Chair, but I bring with me one or two bouquets along with the brickbats. Being as we are a constructive party of opposition, Mr Chair, we recognise that the government has made some advancing moves in the field of primary industries. Not as many as perhaps we would like, and not as many as perhaps we think they could have, but it's an opportunity to take them to task, Mr Chair, as we look at the way that government has allocated its funding over the past year and in the year to come, and where it places its priorities. And Mr Chairman, it's no understatement to say that the primary sector is absolutely vital to New Zealand, to our economy, to our nation, to our way of life. And, well, thank you, Mr McKelvey. I do realise that we're all actually on much the same page here, Mr Chairman of the committee, on which I am proud to serve. We have differences of opinion in terms of the best methodology that should be employed, obviously, and that is as it should be in an open and wide-ranging democracy such as we have here. Never put the guns away. Never put the guns away, Ian. Mr Chair, I think as members here, to the debate, I think. As members here, thank you, Mr Chair, for that reminder. As members here will know, New Zealand First is, of course, rapidly becoming the party of choice for people in the provinces. We are becoming the town and country party, as it were. Something that the National Party perhaps used to be many years ago, when people in the provinces and the rural sector and the farming sector used to look to the National Party to represent their interests. But of course, nowadays the National Party has become the party of Queen Street, the party of...
I'm now going to stand up, and the member will sit down, and I'm going to remind him to come back to the debate. And it's not a general political debate. Richard Prosser.
Thank you, Mr Chair. And because of that shift in its priorities, the government has failed to adequately resource some of the most important things to the primary sector in terms of its budgetary allocations. Mr Chair, no, I'm not going to talk about the racing industry, Mr McKelvey. What I want to look at is two things in particular, and one, of course, is biosecurity. Now, I know that Mr O'Connor's touched on this, and we have similar concerns. We want to see sufficient resourcing in the budget put into biosecurity so that we do have 100% X-ray of all luggage. That's handheld luggage, in-hold luggage, cargo and mail. We'd like to see the 0800 pest line staffed 24/7. As we discovered during the Queensland fruit fly incursion, it has not been. And more staff at the ports as well. We know that there have been increases in boots on the ground in recent years, but it's also fair to state that some of those additional boots on the ground have been to replace staff who were taken away from the front line in the years preceding. So we're not actually really back to a net profitability situation in as much as we could be, and really in as much as we should be, because, Mr Chair, and this is one of the bouquets, we're pleased that the government has announced that there is going to be a review of biosecurity at the border. And I think behind the scenes the government probably does recognise that the move away from 100% screening when it was made was a mistake. Because we know that since the Green Lane has been instituted and people are able to enter the country without any kind of inspection, something like 9 million people over the last 3 years have come through that channel. And we know that MPI's target was, and we also know that this channel, according to their surveys afterwards, has proven to be the most reliable, the most effective in terms of compliance, voluntary compliance with biosecurity regulations. But we also know that that target for MPI was 98.5%. And we also know that at no airport in the country was that target achieved. So there might have been achievements up around 95, 96, 97%. But even had that 98.5% target been achieved, something like 135,000 people would have come through the Green Lane in the last 3 years, carrying something that they shouldn't have been carrying. And that would have been an item of fruit, a jar of honey, an item of clothing that had been on a farm or in a forest in a country where foot and mouth disease is endemic. So we know that at least 135,000 incursions have happened over that time since 100% screening was abandoned. And it is actually more than that. It's definitely more than that, because we know that that 98.5% compliance was not achieved. So we do appreciate the fact that I think government has recognised that a review is needed and that they will undertake a review, and that they will, we hope and believe, look at the money that is required in order to reinstitute, Mr Chair?
Richard Prosser.
To reinstitute 100% screening, because we believe that the primary sector is so vital in terms of the sheer volume of money, the sheer percentage of the economy that's dependent on it, that we think and we hope that the government will see sense and that they will allocate the money and restore that 100% screening, and that will be a great thing for the primary sector. The other issue that I want to touch on briefly, Mr Chair, and it's something that we've made mention of in recent weeks and months, is the Overseer nutrient budget management tool. Now, Overseer is a piece of software which was developed in order to help farmers manage the nutrient inputs onto their farms, and from that calculate the amounts of leachate which were coming off at the other end. Now, however, Overseer was never designed as a rule-setting tool, but in the absence of anything else, it's being used for that. Overseer is a good system that can be made a lot better with the addition of just a very, very small input of money. In the grand scheme of things, about $5 or $6 million over the next few years, allocated by the government through its budget, would provide sufficient resourcing for that management tool to be calibrated properly, brought up to standard for all farming models and for all soil types in New Zealand. Because at the moment what we've got is a computer program that was not designed to be used as a rule-setting mechanism, which in the absence of anything else is being used as that rule-setting mechanism. Government is allowing local authorities, regional councils and local councils, to use Overseer as the baseline for their monitoring systems. And we believe, and we hope that the government will accept, that if government is going to allow local authorities to use a tool like this for that purpose, then government has a responsibility to make sure that that tool is fit for that purpose. And we would like to see this government, through its budget, allocate sufficient funding to Overseer. As I say, only about another $5 or $6 million, according to Federated Farmers, is about all that it will take to bring this tool up to speed. Only this morning, Mr Chair, we heard about a farmer in Canterbury who is an award-winning farmer in terms of environmental performance, who has been told by ECAN that the nitrate leaching from his farm is over and above what he's allowed to put out. Now, this farmer is an organic farmer. His nitrogen inputs to his farm are zero. So where you have a system, where you have a program that tells you that a farmer who puts no nitrogen on his farm has too much nitrogen coming off, there is a problem, Mr Chair, there is a problem. And it's a problem that's easily solved with a small cash injection, and we'd love to see the government do that. Thank you.
Mr Chair.